Welcome to week 10 of Bible Studies for Life, continuing in this section on kind of what happens when you get interrupted in life, when we think we know what we're going to do and then something happens and suddenly that's not what we're going to do. Looking forward to this passage today. We're in Luke chapter 8, and so I'm glad you've joined us. Before we go any further, though, if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, let us know you like the video. If you've got a question or an answer, a thought, want to tell us where you're watching from, tell us how you're teaching this passage in your class, something that stood out to you from it. Put that in the comments, and then, of course, share the video with somebody else. If you want to share some resource with us, if you want to give to expose to our ministry, you can go to give.exposedtochrist.com to give to our ministry. Okay, let's look at Luke chapter 8. Familiar stories, really it's two stories that are compressed together here. When Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. So, Jesus comes into town. Everybody's excited to see him, right? Just then, a man named Jairus came. He was a leader of the synagogue. He fell down at Jesus' feet and pleaded with him to come to his house because he had an only daughter about 12 years old and she was dying. While he was going, the crowds were nearly crushing him. Okay, so we see this two things here first, right? We've got a crowd. We've got here, the crowds are nearly crushing him. They are pressing in around him. That comes in the next passage as well. Okay, and then we have this guy, Jairus, who shows up. Jairus is a synagogue leader. He's the leader of the synagogue. Okay, he's an important guy in the community, in the local community. He's a very important guy, right? And he has a daughter who is about 12 years old who is dying. Okay, so a couple of things that I think it's not hard for us to assume about this situation. One is he's probably been to other doctors. He's probably had other people come and look. She is sick. She is dying. She's not just ill. She is dying. No doubt he's had other people there. He is an influential person, a person of importance in the local community. You know that he's had the best that he could find to come help his daughter, and no one has been able to help his daughter. To the point where now, in his desperation, he comes to Jesus. Now, I say that desperation because here is this man who is a synagogue leader who is now coming to Jesus. And we know how the leaders of the Jewish religion, the Pharisees, the scribes, all of these people, how they look at Jesus, most in general, most of them, let's say the grand majority of them look at Jesus very negatively. They're always trying to trap him. And here we have a synagogue leader who is probably not a scribe. He's not a Pharisee. We might even consider him potentially a layman, but a person who has leadership within the group in the synagogue. And this man finally, with his daughter dying, says, I am going to go to Jesus. And when he comes to Jesus, look what it says he does. Again, a sign of desperation. He fell down at Jesus' feet and he pleaded with him. Okay, anybody who's a parent, grandparent, you know what this is, right? When your daughter is dying, and there is nothing that anybody can do to help, you will go wherever you need to go and do whatever you need to do, and you will beg and plead. If there's somebody that you think can help, you're going to beg and plead that they'll come and help. And that's what he does. He comes to Jesus. And so Jesus is here, this crowd of people who are wanting things from him, and Jairus shows up, and Jairus pushes his way to the front of this crowd and falls down at Jesus' feet and pleads with him to come help his daughter. Okay. So, in the midst of that, a woman suffering from bleeding for 12 years, who had spent all she had on doctors and yet could not be healed by any, approached from behind and touched the end of his robe. Instantly, her bleeding stopped. Okay, so now we've got another character, right? We've got this woman. She's had a bleeding for 12 years and had spent all she had on doctors, okay? Like Jairus, has done everything that she could to try to find help for this, resolution, healing for this, and that nothing has worked. And interesting, the daughter's about 12 years old. The woman's been suffering for 12 years, right? And she has been suffering for the entire length of the little girl's life. Now, we think probably the little girl hasn't been sick her whole life, but this woman has been sick for that entire 12 years. And she comes to Jesus. Now, you have to know this. The Jewish religious world, she is considered unclean and is not allowed to come and do worship like everybody else can. So she is an outsider. So here we have Jairus, the great insider, right? The prototypical insider. And then we have this woman who is absolutely the outsider. And we have Jairus who comes, the leader of the synagogue, and falls down at Jesus' feet. And this woman who approached from behind and just touched the end of his robe. That's as close as she could get. She came up from behind for whatever reason, right? And just touches the end of her robe, and instantly her bleeding stopped. Instantly she's healed. Who touched me? Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, Master, the crowds are hemming you in and pressing against you. Someone did touch me, said Jesus. I know that power has gone out from me. Jesus says, who touched me? And Peter's like, everybody? What are you talking about? There's people all around you, right? They're pressing in. Remember we saw this, right? The crowds were nearly crushing him. Everybody's touching you. What do you mean? Who touched you? And Jesus says, someone touched me and power has gone out from me. Somebody touched me differently than all these other people who were touching me. Somebody touched me in desperation, in faith, and in hope. Somebody touched me in great need, and power went out from me. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I don't understand that. I don't get that. Because no one has ever touched my clothes and I felt power leave my body. Okay? Jesus is unique in all of history, and that someone could just touch the hem of his garment and he could feel power leave him because they had faith, they had hope, they had belief that if they could just touch the hem of his garment. And that's what she believed, if I can just get close enough. And she was healed in that moment. When the woman saw that she was discovered, she came trembling and fell down before him. In the presence of all the people, she declared the reason she had touched him and how she was instantly healed. Daughter, he said to her, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. How about this? Your faith has saved you. Her belief, right? Her trust, her earnest hope was not misplaced. She had put her hope in Jesus, and it was not misplaced. And she was healed instantly. Okay, so she gets discovered. She comes and tells him, this is what happened. And he says, it's your faith. She's already healed. And he says, your faith has healed you. This is amazing, right? It's an amazing story. But at the same time, we have this other story that got interrupted, didn't it? This other story that got interrupted, because here it is, verse 49. While he was still speaking, someone came from the synagogue leader's house and said, your daughter is dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore. When Jesus heard it, he answered him, don't be afraid, only believe, and she will be saved. Okay, so it's almost like when we're getting this story, we almost forget that there's this whole other story going on, right? There's this man Jairus, and he was going to Jairus' home because his 12-year-old daughter was about to die. And then he got interrupted, and I think it's just kind of interesting to think about, what did Jairus think in the moment, right? When suddenly Jesus stops and starts asking, hey, who's touching me? Jairus is like, what do you mean? My daughter's dying. We got to go. Jesus takes this moment to be with this woman. And even healing her, even as he's walking, almost not even knowing it, in a sense, that he heals her. And for Jairus, the interruption is not timely. But of course, Jairus had interrupted Jesus too, hadn't he? He'd walked into the middle and demanded for himself. And Jesus was willing to go to Jairus' home. And then he gets interrupted by this woman who doesn't really want to interrupt him. She just kind of wants to touch, but it's because he stops and calls her out that she has to kind of come forward. And now she's healed, and now here's the daughter has died. Your daughter is dead, while Jesus is talking to this woman. You get Jairus now? man, you know, your heart just has to drop, right? It's too late. We had to stop and take care of this woman. She's been 12 years. She could have gone a little longer. You know, you just think he could be thinking that, right? And Jesus knows he's upset. And Jesus knows. Because who wouldn't be, right? He just found out his daughter died. Don't be afraid. Only believe, and she will be saved. Jairus, you believe, she will be saved. The woman believed, and she was saved. Her health was restored, right? She was healed. But he tells Jairus, you believe, and your child will be saved. You trust. It had to be tough. Okay, now in your books, they leave out 51 to 53. I have no idea why. Just tell the whole story. That's the way I feel about it. Okay, so I'm going to read them. After he came to the house, he let no one enter with him except Peter, John, James, and the child's father and mother. Everyone was crying and mourning for her, but he said, stop crying. She is not dead, but asleep. They laughed at him because they were not invested in this. They could just go from crying to laughter immediately. It was nothing for them, right? Here they're crying and mourning. Next thing you know, they're laughing because, well, that was just their paid, most likely paid mourners, because they knew she was dead. And this seems preposterous, right? They knew she was dead. Jesus says she's not dead, she's asleep. So he took her by the hand and he called out, this is where it starts in your book. He called out, child, get up. And her spirit returned, and she got up at once. Then he gave orders that she be given something to eat, and her parents were astounded, but he instructed them to tell no one what had happened. Of course, everybody's going to know what had happened. All these people are out here mourning, and they're going to see the girl alive. But look at this. He took her by the hand, and he spoke to her as if she was alive, because for Jesus it was she just as well might have been asleep. Right? Not dead, but asleep. For him, the future was nothing. He lived in the past, present, and future all at once. And so he could call something that wasn't something that was, and then it would be. And then give her something to eat. Take care of her. Don't worry. I'll have this. Okay, I want to go back to this. Don't be afraid. I want you to just think about this. What was he afraid of? What in that moment of finding out that she was dead, what was his fear? I think we know what these fears are, right? How am I going to live through this? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to talk to my wife? I failed. I went to go get Jesus. I didn't get him in time. Fears about his own life and his own mortality. Jesus says, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of what's about to happen. Just believe. This is great counsel for us, right? In the midst of everything that may go on in our lives, don't be afraid. Just believe. Just trust. Don't be worried. Just trust. God is sovereign. God is in control. And whatever happens, God is still in control. And however chaotic life may look, God is still in control. Even when things don't happen the way we want, even when we think urgency has now been mishandled by someone and suddenly we're not going to get there on time and we're going to be late and how horrible it's going to be, don't worry. Just believe, just trust God, just trust him. Just trust. And let God take care of it. Give him space in your life to work his miracles, his will, his actions that are beyond ours in even any way that we could consider. Give him space to be God in your life. Just believe. Don't worry. Just believe. I hope that's helped. I think it's a great story. There's a lot of ways you can go here. And the 12 years, there's something there. It's interesting to think about and talk about maybe in the comments what your ideas about that 12 years is. But appreciate you watching. Hope that's helped. Subscribe, like, comment, share with somebody else. We'll see you next week.